The Steam Autumn Sale is live a little bit earlier than usual this year, and with it, I have over 50 recommendations for strategy and tactics games for you to check out, including turn-based, real-time, well-known, and some indie gems. If this is your genre, you should definitely subscribe and check out the channel because these are the type of games that I cover. Troubleshooter Abandoned Children is easily one of the most slept-on strategy RPGs. Set in Valhalla, a city where poverty, street gangs, and crime run rampant, you'll take control of a brand new agency of troubleshooters, which are basically like mercenary contractors hired out by the government and police to handle the crime. Its foundation is the familiar modern XCOM combat system, but with a power fantasy style of play, where your characters will routinely take on missions fighting 20, 30, or even 100 enemies at a time. While there's not a lot of cosmetic customization, the character builds and skill combinations more than make up for it, with over 800 abilities available to unlock and a ridiculously open-ended mastery system. Toss in a much more complex story than expected and characters that all manage to feel incredibly unique, and you have a top-tier squad tactics experience that can easily last you over 100 hours. However, I will say this game does have a bit of a learning curve, will require some grinding, and is made by Korean developers, so sometimes the translations can feel a little off. If none of that bothers you, the cost of entry is absolutely worth it to try, plus a sequel is in development and set to release next year, so it's the perfect time to jump in. Going in the opposite direction, Jagged Alliance 3 is another game where you control a company of mercs, but in a more modern setting with a very violent and dark humor approach. The third entry in the franchise does a good job of keeping the classic mechanics that make Jagged Alliance while combining them with new, updated, modern gameplay, and it should be noted that while development for this game is for the most part technically complete, the modding community is just starting to really take over, and as we've seen with so many of these games, that's something that will keep this game being played and alive for years. Written Valor 1949 is a real-time strategy roguelike with an alternate World War II setting. The Axis powers have all but won the war, with their armies spreading across and terrorizing Europe. You play as the remainders of the Allied resistance, who have repaired some mechs of their own and are launching a dangerous counterattack into the main Axis HQ, hoping to shut down and disable their army. Drop into diorama-style combat across multiple regions in Europe, taking on waves of enemies, massive bosses, and psychotic generals, upgrading the resistance base and mechs along the way. You can pause during combat, in addition to an option that slows down time whenever you select a unit. The roguelike and meta progression layers are actually deeper than I expected, with quite a few upgrades and extras to unlock for your mechs, including overclock abilities, legendary items, and more pilots, each with their own unique special abilities to level up as well. The enemies keep things interesting with floor traps, obstacles, airstrikes, and side objectives, so there really is not much downtime during runs. Grit and Valor has addressed a lot of community feedback since launch, with some major improvements being rolled out, alongside new features like cosmetics and a freshly announced VR version of the game coming out in August. The full campaign can be unlocked and completed in 25 to 30 hours, and there's even a demo available on Steam if you would like to try it out before you buy it. Cyberknight's Flashpoint is a cyberpunk-themed game with some familiar XCOM-styled mechanics, but it really is much more than that. Plan and execute elaborate heists with squad tactics, abilities, weapon modding, and an overworld that includes factions, safe houses, and dynamic storytelling that evolves with who you work with, take on missions, and what they do. If you've been looking for full character customization in one of these games, that's here too, including names, looks, and massive skill trees. And the developers have a firm policy to never wipe or push an update that breaks any previous version saved games, which is great because this game literally gets updated multiple times a week, and it's been that way since early access. An already deep game with a long roadmap of support ahead of it, this is one that any tactics fan should at least try. Chains of Freedom is a recent release that I would compare to Mutant Year Zero. Explore post-apocalyptic Eastern Europe in real time, uncovering a deep conspiracy and mind control plot, all while fighting off paramilitary cults and monsters in turn-based tactics battles. Any character can use any weapon, but the real variety comes in the form of biocrystals, which can be found and swapped out at will, giving your character special abilities or advantages in combat and making for some really fun builds. I personally enjoyed the late game Horde-style battles, but they can be very challenging. Chains of Freedom is also fairly linear, with the full story coming in at around 25 hours, but the developers have recently put out a huge update, making turn timers optional and addressing a lot of the community feedback, so there's never been a better time to try this game. If you ever wanted to play the alien side of XCOM, Attack of the Earthlings is like that. Kind of. This is a relatively straightforward and simple turn-based tactics game with a big focus on satire, dark humor, and tactical stealth gameplay. You'll take control of the Swarmers, an insectoid race whose planet is being invaded by a massively dysfunctional drilling corporation. Set traps, take control of unsuspecting humans, and use their tissues to upgrade your units with unique roles and abilities. While this game is a lot of fun, it can be completed in 10 hours or less, and the stealth-focused style of gameplay might feel a little bit slow for some. Because of this, I can really only recommend it on sale. Forgotten But Unbroken is a World War II turn-based tactics game focused on historical events and accuracy, as well as the true stories of resistance soldiers in Europe throughout the course of the war. Important to note since my review of this game at launch is that the developers have been hard at work and listening to the community, adding in difficulty settings in a skirmish mode along with a monthly leaderboard and league system. They actually just dropped their biggest update yet, with a new story mission, silent weapons, and the stealth system being a little bit more viable, as well as a ton of changes to the base camp and morale mechanics. Songs of Silence is a turn-based 4X auto-battler with a ridiculously good-looking art style and presentation, although there's a lot going on that'll grab your attention and can make the UI feel a little cluttered or hard to read sometimes. In addition, it incorporates some card mechanics, and if you're still here with me after that and auto-battler, this one might be for you. Command your heroes and armies from 3 different factions and over 110 unique units through a story-driven campaign, or do frantic skirmishes with up to 6 players in co-op or free-for-all modes across over 100 randomized maps. And if that's not enough, handcrafted scenarios are available for challenges and to flesh out storylines and characters from the main campaign. There really is a lot of content here. Songs of Silence also recently released a DLC that includes a second story campaign if you enjoy the first one. If you're into tabletop or co-op turn-based tactics, Sunderfolk is right up your alley. This is a unique title designed around playing with friends but also enjoyable solo. The village of Arden is under attack from corruption, and your heroes are called up to save it, with 6 individual characters to choose from, all having their own relationships in the village and roles in combat. The story is nothing out of this world, but the gameplay and abilities are well done and very smooth, and the main selling point is that only 1 copy of Sunderfolk is needed for up to 4-player co-op. This is possible because the free mobile app turns your phone into your character sheet and controller, making the game usable for Steam remote play, Discord sharing, or even local couch co-op. There's even a free trial available on Steam that lets you play the first 4 missions. Aliens Dark Descent is a game that I left on the back burner for way too long. This real-time squad strategy has shades of XCOM, putting you in control of Marines that are fully customizable, including names, appearance, specialties, and abilities. Your team is on a mission to stop a Xenos outbreak on the planet Lethe, but things are much worse than they originally seemed, and the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is there making trouble too. One of the most unique things about this game is the way you interact and move through the levels, welding doors shut to create safe rooms, setting up traps and sensors, and uncovering shortcuts to use later. There's also some light base management where you can do research and upgrade gear for your Marine. Speaking of your Marines, not only do you need to manage their physical health, but their sanity as well, with fatigue, shell shock, and penalties setting in if you push them too hard for too long. You might feel that same way while playing, honestly. Dark Descent does a fantastic job of capturing the tension, chaos, and feel of the Alien series, from the sounds of the Xenos creeping around you to the dots on the motion sensors getting ever closer. You will never be at ease, but can always pause during the real-time combat to issue orders if you need to. Toss in some permadeath, a cliche but not overall terrible story, and a persistent world that carries over everything you do as you continue to dive in, plus a tight timer with a set amount of days to complete your missions, and that tense feeling never really goes away. Now, this list obviously wouldn't be complete without including the big 3 in the real-time tactics genre. 3 games that are all over 90% positive on Steam and all at least 75% off. If you're into the Commandos games or the more stealthy style of real-time tactics, these are must-plays. First up, Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun. Set in Edo-era Japan, you'll take control of a group of 5 assassins that specialize in espionage, each with their own individual playstyle, personalities, and demons to face. Set traps traps, poison enemies, and infiltrate everything from castles to hidden camps. And even though this is the oldest entry in the group, the levels still look amazing, the soundtrack is fantastic, and if you're looking for the most pure stealth experience, this is it. Desperados 3 takes the real-time stealth tactics to the Wild West, and if you're worried about missing anything from the first 2 games to play this, don't be. It's actually a prequel. You'll take your group of 5 characters through 16 missions led by gunslinging drifter John Cooper, using the same core mechanics as Shadow Tactics, but a bit more grounded and gritty. The cowboy setting brings in the standard train robbers, saloons, and some clever environmental interactions. The biggest thing here though is probably the quality of life additions like the showdown mode, allowing you to sync complex character actions together. The final game before this studio was shut down, Shadow Gambit: The Cursed Crew brings their brand of tactics to the pirate world. Set in the Caribbean during the golden age of piracy, where the Inquisition is looking to eradicate pirates altogether and find a powerful artifact. To put a stop to this, you take control of an infamous ghost ship and its 8 undead crew members waiting to be revived. Obviously, this leans a bit more into the supernatural, but also takes more of a non-linear approach, allowing you to unlock crew members in whichever order you see fit, pick which missions to do next, and using your ship as a hub in between where you can get to know your crew and help them with their individual side quest. More islands get revealed as you progress, and in my opinion, this setting and the graphic style blend together extremely well. It really is a shame that this studio ended up shutting down. A game that clearly draws inspiration from those, Sumerian 6 is a real-time tactics title set in World War II. You play as the Enigma Squad, a team of commandos that double as the world's best scientists, trying to stop a former member of their squad who has embraced the Axis and its fascination with the occult. Stealth is, of course, a big part of the game, with your team sneaking through compounds and combining their skills to take down enemies, chaining them together and using creative synergies and tactics to get the job done. The supernatural element keeps things interesting, not only with enemy variety, but allies as well, and the roughly 15 to 20 hour story unfolds across multiple continents with some really great looking levels and design. Miasma Chronicles is a game from the developers of Mutant Year Zero and shares a lot of the same characteristics. Real-time exploration and stealth precedes the turn-based tactics combat, and the story is a little hit or miss. The environments and atmosphere are absolutely beautiful though, and this game focuses on a section of rural America being destroyed by a force known only as the Miasma. You'll play as a young man left in the care of his robotic older brother and fight all kinds of mutated creatures with powers like summoning and teleportation. As for the main story, expect Miasma Chronicles to take you roughly 20 to 25 hours to complete. So, have you ever wanted to star in your own homicidal game show? That's what Showgunners is, pitting contestants against criminals, murderers, and psychopaths to see who can survive. While there is no character creator and light customization, the combat layer is actually very polished and well done here with XCOM style abilities, movement, and kill cams. I think it goes without saying that this one can also get pretty gory and graphic. In between encounters and ambushes, you'll be navigating a booby trap filled arena in real time just to keep things interesting, and it actually comes together a lot better than you might think. Showgunners is a hidden gem for anybody who really enjoys the turn-based tactic combat style of XCOM, and it even has a free DLC add-on. Chroma Squad is a little bit of a hidden gem, and it's a game that leans into the old-school TV Power Rangers tropes. You'll play as 5 stunt actors who quit their jobs and start their own Power Ranger-style TV show by hiring actors, upgrading your studio, and then rolling the camera for your turn-based tactics fights. Combat itself is not overly complex, but it works in the context of the game, as this is just designed to be a fun, cheesy romp. It accomplishes all of that and might even bring back some nostalgia from your childhood. Gears Tactics is the Gears of War inspired XCOM-like that actually pulls it off pretty well. Graphically, it is top tier, and it has its own features like big boss battles that really help it to stand out from the competition. A nicely refined Overwatch system and chainsaw executions top it off to make it one of the better feeling squad tactics games out there in my opinion. There's some light character customization like armor colors, and even though permadeath does not apply to the main heroes of the story, the recruits you get along the way, it does. Whether you're a hardcore fan of the Gears world or you're just a casual fan of the genre, you can Google some of the background lore and jump right into this game without really missing much. If you're looking for a World War II game, Classified France 44 has you play as a specialized group of elite operators launching raids in German territory in the months leading up to D-Day. Stealth plays a big part here, so you won't always be running and gunning and jumping into the action. Cosmetic customization is basic, and the focus leans more towards the individual characters and their skill trees with multiple paths that you can choose. It should also be noted that the production level here is AA, so there is a little bit of jank, and there is also a firm D-Day countdown timer that caps the amount of missions missions you can do. A mix of cyberpunk, magic, and fantasy, Shadowrun Dragonfall is an older turn-based tactics game, but the director's cut is the definitive experience. If that world sounds at all interesting to you, you should check this one out because the writing and story is actually very good along with the atmosphere. It's not an overly long game and you can probably beat it in about 12 to 15 hours, so for the price it is a solid experience, and there's even a little bit of workshop mod content on Steam available. Battle Brothers is a classic turn-based tactics RPG with a little bit of a minimalist graphic style and some absolutely fantastic writing. Lead your mercenary company through a medieval dark open world and navigate all the challenges that come with it. If punishing turn-based tactics combat, character customization, and permadeath are your thing, then this just might be the game for you. Battle Brothers even has its own full-scale overhaul mod called Reforged that reworks and expands a lot of the game and can extend the replayability of the game after you're done with vanilla. Turn-based tactics, mechs, and long battles. If you like those three things, then there's no reason that you shouldn't like Battletech. This is a very fleshed out game where you will handle your mercenary company of mechs and manage their finances all the way down to the troops in battle. There's a lot of customization available, and if you enjoy the base game, there's plenty of extra DLC that you can buy also. However, with a roughly 50-hour plus base campaign length, that really should not be necessary. Cruising with an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, Tactical Breach Wizards is not your typical turn-based tactics game. Although this one definitely leans more towards a puzzle-style game, it's got a crazy world where magic and military mix, unique characters with a lot of sarcastic and witty dialogue, and a rewind mechanic that does just enough to make it not feel too punishing to the player. The game is cheaper than a lot of other games to begin with, and if you think a game like this can't have any replayability, there's already a Steam workshop full of player-created levels and missions for you to enjoy. Tainted Grail Conquest is connected to the recently released hit RPG with the same name, but plays much differently. Not quite your normal roguelike deck builder, Conquest includes some resource management and survival style mechanics similar to RPGs, which is great if you're looking for something outside of the norm with these games. Choose from 9 classes that all play very differently, along with over 450 cards, 300 plus passive skills, 50 masteries, and much more that you'll use while questing, saving NPCs, and building up your village in this dark fantasy setting. Full voice acting, great graphics, and a decent story are the icing on the cake, but progression can feel a little slow, and enemy variety is a bit lacking after a while, so a sale, especially at this price, is the perfect time to grab it. King Arthur Knight's Tale is a challenging experience where you will fight to restore Camelot after a dark curse and slay the now undead King Arthur. Recruit legendary heroes like Sir Lancelot and Morgan Le Fay as you explore maps in real time, which I will say they're large and the movement is a little clunky, and fight bandits, rebels, and the undead in turn-based tactics battles. Knight's Tale has a surprising amount of player choice in how you want to rule Camelot, and mechanics similar to XCOM as far as base building, injury management, and permadeath for your knights. For a shorter experience in the same vein, you can pick up the second game in the series, King Arthur Legion 9, where you play as undead Roman Legion, but again it is a shorter experience and kind of like an expansion into the universe more so than an actual full game, coming in at around roughly 15 hours of playtime. Skald is a very retro party-based RPG with turn-based tactics combat. Everything about this, from the graphics to the art style and the music, just makes me feel like playing an old arcade game when I was a kid. But don't let that fool you, this is a very dark, Lovecraft-inspired world full of horror, tragedy, and death. Build your character and party how you want, selecting from a group of allies with their own skill sets, agendas, and personalities, all while crafting and cooking to prepare yourself for the journey that runs about 15 to 20 hours of playtime. Songs of Conquest is a Heroes of Might and Magic style game combining strategic thinking with kingdom management and turn-based tactics battles. Expand your kingdom and build your towns with a wide variety of maps and biomes to loot and explore, including randomized maps to increase replayability. The combat here is deep with a mix of troop abilities and magic, along with 4 campaigns, 4 factions, and an in-game map editor that allows you to create your own adventures. This really is a great price, and Songs of Conquest also recently released a new DLC. Crawl Tactics is a roguelike tactical RPG that's actually a bit misleading because you won't see how deep it really is at first. This is a good old-fashioned retro-feeling dungeon crawler with an incredible amount of options and ways to build out your character and team composition. Story is there, but not much of a focus as combat, loot, and inventory management takes center stage, and Crawl Tactics does a great job of being simple enough to jump right in and understand, yet difficult to master. You'll battle all kinds of enemies as you adventure through procedurally generated maps and dungeons, but the layers and different ways to approach this game will only be exposed as you dig deeper in, so there can be a bit of a learning curve and the difficulty is steep at times. The developer is very active though, recently adding in the 2.0 update that revamped entire systems and mechanics and added the more accessible quest mode to the game. With yet another recent DLC that just dropped and is on sale, it is the perfect time to jump into Wartales. Your mercenaries will explore the open world and enter into a standard turn-based tactics combat phase when they encounter enemies. There's also full character customization and permadeath, however there are a lot of systems here and it has a pretty steep learning curve. You will need to pick good and bad traits for your characters as well as professions and manage things like hunger and resources. Wartales can be a bit grindy, but with all the DLC and updates it's received, it's really turned into quite the experience. The modern classics XCOM 1 and 2 are games that every turn-based tactics fan should have. XCOM 2 is the definitive squad tactics experience, and its expansion War of the Chosen just makes it that much deeper with new enemies and hero units. A ton of soldier customization, permadeath, and literally thousands of mods make it so that you can fine-tune this gaming experience to however you want it to be. You can even grab Enemy Unknown, the first game in the modern XCOM reboot series, that has more of a tense horror movie feel to it, and even though it's a little bit older, it really doesn't feel as dated as you might think. Developed by one of the creators of the original XCOM, Julian Gollop, Phoenix Point is the closest XCOM-like experience that there is. You fight against a virus that is mutating mankind, all while managing multiple bases, squads, and a global front. While the production level and polish overall is not as high as the XCOM series, the complexity is much deeper, with even the base game having a lot of features that are similar to the Long War mod in XCOM 2. On top of that, Phoenix Point has a lot of DLC packs and a huge overhaul mod of its own called Terror from the Void that reworks a lot of the base game systems and adds even more enemies on top of it. This is a worthwhile squad-based tactics experience, and if you're looking to jump in, now is the best time to be able to grab the base game or all of the DLC. Even if you're just a casual Marvel fan, Midnight Suns is a very good turn-based tactics game. The card combat system that you've likely heard about is not as limiting as it looks on the surface, and the production value and polish here is top-notch. Midnight Suns has a good-sized roster of well-known and slightly more obscure heroes that all manage to play pretty distinctly different from each other. That makes finding synergies and the right combinations feel very satisfying. If you like a deep story and world, the narrative is a huge focus in Midnight Suns, as well as character building and relationships. Not to mention, now that all the DLC has been released, the Legendary Edition can get you all of the extras at one great price. Starvaders is a fantastic blend of nostalgic arcade goodness and turn-based tactics combat. Loosely based on the classic Space Invaders, this roguelike deck builder puts you in control of mech pilots fighting off an alien assault. Each mech and pilot has their own abilities and unique playstyles, from overheating to using swords and cards like shurikens, or psychically controlling puppets to do everything for you. Top that off with great enemy variety, a rewarding meta progression system that is surprisingly deep, and strategic boss battles that I couldn't wait to get back to at the end of every region. Starvaders also recently released a huge update, adding in sandbox mode and many quality of life improvements. The discount isn't amazing, but this game feels like such a hidden gem, with the 98% positive reviews agreeing. Telepath Tactics Liberated is a strong take on classic turn-based tactics. Think of it kind of like Fire Emblem, with destructible battlefields, interactable environments, and the ability to place and use traps. Create and lead your army of ragtag raw recruits as you turn them into elite veterans fighting off the slaver force. A built-in campaign creator is a nice added bonus, and it even has Steam Workshop support with a few custom campaigns already made that you can play. Metaphor ReFantazio is a tactical turn-based RPG from the developers of Persona, and in some ways their masterpiece. A combination of refined mechanics from their previous games set in a new universe and setting that is much more dark fantasy. Sitting at over 90% positive on Steam, you might have seen Metaphor at the Game Awards as well. After the king is assassinated, an orphaned boy goes on a quest to lift the curse from the prince of the land, his childhood friend, gathering a party, adventuring across the kingdom, and rallying support from its people while trying to find a way to save the prince. If you're a JRPG fan, this one is a must-play. Steamworld Heist is unique and not your typical turn-based tactics game. You play as a band of robot pirates, and each mission is a ship that's procedurally generated. Don't let the art style fool you, it can actually be a fairly challenging game. There is a modified grid movement system with full and partial cover, but the big mechanic here is that you can ricochet shots off of walls and objects to clear levels and enemies with crazy trick shots and well thought out positioning. Missions are generally pretty quick, and this is a nice fun game to just drop in and play, although to complete it will probably only take you about 15 to 20 hours. Steamworld Heist II, in my opinion, is one of the best turn-based tactical releases of last year. The sequel is masterfully done, taking on all of the mechanics from the first game and improving them, while pairing a bigger open world with flexible exploration, job, and class systems. Even better feeling combat and fully customizable difficulty settings are the icing on the cake, as players can really define their own experience with this game. And of course, there's a killer performance by steam-powered Draft. A game that really needs no introduction. If you somehow haven't played Darkest Dungeon yet, this is definitely one you should grab. A phenomenal atmosphere and combat system with plenty of horrific bosses and dungeons to crawl through to your heart's content. Not to mention the modding community of this game, which is huge and recently released an overhaul mod called the Black Reliquary. It can definitely be a little grindy and punishing, but at a price like this, I really can't recommend it enough. Doorkickers 2 Task Force North is a squad-based milsim tactical sandbox that might just be best in class, with an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam. Play as Rangers, SWAT, or CIA squads in a fictional conflict with complete freedom as to how you will accomplish your objectives. Planning is the name of the game here, as you drop your soldiers in and manually draw up how they'll execute the mission. Don't let the spaghetti scare you away though, it's really not so bad. Each soldier can move, pivot, and cover how you see fit, with go codes at your disposal to synchronize and time team actions. But you don't even have to play this way if you don't want to. Doorkickers 2 is real-time with pause, meaning at any given time you can take control of individual soldiers and move them around. If plans go sideways, as they often do, you can pause, rethink the situation, draw up a new plan, and proceed forward. Not only are there many approaches to missions, but different armor, weapons, classes, and equipment all have situational strengths and weaknesses. Take your squad through persistent, randomly generated campaigns that do have permadeath options, or hop into the level editor and design your own missions. Steam Workshop support is there for the less creative, like myself, and is well stocked with over 8,000 weapon, mission, and soldier mods. There is no deep story in Doorkickers, but that's fine. The beauty of the game is the easy to learn but difficult to master chaotic sandbox style. The original Doorkickers is also available, where you play as a SWAT team instead of military rangers. It's a great game in its own right as well, and has a couple of different mechanics, but I will say with all of the improvements that are made in the sequel, it can be a little bit tougher to go back and play. Starship Troopers Terran Command is a real-time strategy game that kind of feels like those old StarCraft defense missions. Command squads of mobile infantry marines as you take on overwhelming hordes of bugs, defend fortresses, and dive deep into their hives. There is some light base building here, but it's very streamlined and not much of a focus, leaving the control, positioning, and composition of your squads as the crucial part of the gameplay loop. While there are no major character cameos from the movies, the game opens with the infamous Battle of Clendathu, and mission briefings are structured like Federal News Network broadcasts, complete with all of the heavy-handed satire the franchise is known for. Outside of the original campaign and story, Terran Command also features a full scenario editor, allowing players to create their own maps, missions, and even some Steam Workshop content where you can play as the bugs. Ongoing support and development is also here, with multiple DLCs, including my favorite, Urban Onslaught, where an island's police force teams up with the mobile infantry for bug warfare in an urban city setting. A new territory and map control game mode called Domination is in open beta right now, which anyone can play, and another new DLC was just announced recently, so there is a lot of content available if you like this one. Augmented Empire is a cyberpunk squad-based tactics game that was originally on the Oculus. It's a bit of a streamlined XCOM style, where you'll gather your crew, step into a dystopian city full of corruption, and spark a revolution to overthrow the elite. The story, art style, and voice acting is very good, and arguably the focus here, as the combat is fun, but probably not the most challenging for veterans of this genre. It does mix in a few unique mechanics to separate it from the pack, and really is just a nice pick-up-and-play type of game if you like this style setting. With only 26 missions, it's not the longest either, but I think the price makes it at least worth a look. The Last Spell is a really innovative take on turn-based strategy. In an attempt to banish all magic from the world, you must make sure that the last spell is cast, requiring multiple days of uninterrupted incantation. To do this, you will repair and build your defenses during the day, and use your heroes to defend the last city of humanity by night from the evil and monsters outside. Your squad of heroes has stats, items, perks, and all the RPG fixings, combined with long, roguelike style runs and a progression system that'll keep you coming back for more. While this may not look like a squad tactics game, technically it can be because the long-awaited co-op mode is currently available to everyone, allowing for up to 4 players in a world together. Truthfully, I just love this game and it's one of my favorite real-time strategy titles. A dynamic blend of action RPG, base building, wave defense, and real-time strategy wrapped into a beautiful package. Riftbreaker has you play as a commando in a mecha suit that's capable of rift travel to investigate planets and their environments, with the local wildlife and aliens being not so happy that you're there. The storyline isn't amazing, but the gameplay is extremely smooth and fluid, with tons of different biomes, freeform base building and survival elements, plenty of weapons and upgrades to choose from, and additional DLC with continued support if you enjoy the base game. Riftbreaker really is a truly unique and fun experience. With everything already available and more coming in the future, there has never been a better time to pick this one up. While Baldur's Gate 3 gets a ton of the attention these days, the original Baldur's Gate and its sequel are games that I have so many fond memories of. Don't expect this to be like BG3. It's actually not turn-based, but instead real-time with pause. The Enhanced Edition includes the remastered base game as well as its expansion content, along with some new challenges and recruitable characters and returning favorites from the series like Minsk and Boo. The story is carried over from the original Baldur's Gate game, but if you're worried about not knowing what's going on, everything is explained and caught up rather quickly when you start a new game, so you won't miss out. With that being said, this is a remaster of an old school CRPG, and with that comes some of the older feeling mechanics and pathfinding. The movement and controls may feel a bit clunky at first, but once you get used to them, it's not so bad. Story, characters, and voice acting, however, are still solid, and if you enjoy D&D in general, you'll probably like this too. Although you can't actually visit the city of Baldur's Gate in Baldur's Gate 2, for $10, you could do a lot worse. Wildermyth is a game about legacies, and if you like to keep your heroes around and see them grow old, this might be your thing. The game is designed to follow your heroes all the way through multiple playthroughs and generations, and with procedurally generated events, every campaign is unique. The art style is also different, for better or worse, and the base game only has 3 character classes. However, Wildermyth has full Steam Workshop support and hundreds of mods, helping to add to its replayability and overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam. If you're looking to make a run into the Warhammer strategy games, there may not be a better time to jump in. They're pretty much all on sale with good deals. For a small dash of turn-based kingdom management and large-scale real-time battles, you can buy the Total War games or the trilogy. On the turn-based tactics side of things, the most XCOM-like game would probably be Chaos Gate Daemon Hunters, where you play as the Grey Knights fighting to stop a massive plague from Nurgle. Or if you prefer the Adeptus Mechanicus fighting the Necrons, the original Mechanicus game is dirt cheap and a great way to prime for Mechanicus 2, which should be coming soon. For a larger scale version of tactics, there's Warhammer Battle Sector, which actually has a pretty good variety of game modes and a solid campaign that follows the Blood Angels through the destruction of Baal. For a grand strategy 4X style game, there's Gladius, which is a little bit like Civilization except it doesn't have any diplomacy. Lastly, the Warhammer version of Baldur's Gate 3 Rogue Trader is a massive RPG with turn-based tactics battles and a very good recent DLC. I will say that all of these Warhammer games have some form of DLC attached, and if you want a better breakdown on all of these games in one video, including pros and cons and their DLCs, click through to the video on screen now.